Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Comic Book Weekly. Guys, we're here, all three of us, 2 weeks in a row. I mean, that's, like in sports, that's like almost like a winning streak, right? So that's good stuff right there. Yeah, guys, we got a fun show for you tonight. It was the holiday weekend. So hopefully you guys had a wonderful Turkey Day, Thanksgiving, had time with your families, went Black Friday shopping, did all that stuff. But unfortunately, when it comes to comic book news, there's nothing during this time. So the one thing we did have, though, is a lot of comic books to talk about. And we were just talking on how we should tackle this show because there was no news. And basically, we're going to talk a lot about the comic books. And we're going to find out here. I want to know in the comments, how many comic books did you guys all read, right? And so, Brant, we were talking, how many books did you read?
I read 23 books.
And this is huge for Kat. How many did you read, Kat?
20. I don't remember last time I had 20 books. And I had there's some books I didn't pick up. I think Rogue Sun. I was like, all right, I'm gonna drop this for a little while. I did end up reading Hyde Street. But yeah, there's one or two books where I was like, I just can't read it. Sorry.
Yeah. Mike and I were talking about there's a couple books that we actually got and we just didn't read. But
which ones?
There was Iron Man was one of them for sure.
Yeah, I didn't read Iron Man.
I thought maybe you guys dropped it when I saw it on there. I was like, oh, you guys both didn't read it, I guess.
Yeah. I literally had it. It was I had two books left to read after I did all my videos, and one was the Batman Last Halloween, which actually is a good book, and then I had Iron Man sitting there. Plenty of time to read it. I actually picked it up. I started it, and then I looked at it, and I'm like, God, the artwork is awful. And then I'm like, God, the lettering in this book is so amateurish. I'm like, and just, I can't stand looking at Tony Stark with his long ass hair and his stupid beard. And I'm like, I hate this book. I'm like, this is not the book that I want to read. So I feel like I told Brant this. I'm like, I'm going to get my Iron Man and West Coast Avengers, because not only do you get Iron Man in there, but you also got War Machine in there as well. And I don't know, it's written better. So I'm just not going to read this Iron Man run, I don't think.
I decided that with issue 1. I wasn't a huge fan of it.
Yeah. You know me, I try to stick with stuff, but especially with big characters like that. But yeah, I think I'm going to drop it as well. And Mystique was another one I didn't read. I made the choice not to read, and then I didn't get time to read Action Comics. So, but neither one of you all are reading that either.
No.
So I didn't think it was a big deal. So,
when it comes to Iron Man, though, it's so far out there compared to what we just got. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just, I don't know, man. It's completely different. I feel like the West Coast Avengers one is more tied into what we just got, because Jerry Duggan is the one that writes West Coast Avengers, and he wrote Iron Man. So it's that's the continuation of the story that he just finished.
Yeah.
So that's that. So yeah, so we're going to talk about a lot of comic books, and then we're going to talk about maybe books that you should be reading, or maybe we'll ask you, hey, what books are you reading? And maybe you can recommend to us. So yeah, it's going to be a good show for you. So thanks, guys, for being in. And here's a question right here. Do you all have snow?
I don't. I live in New York, and there's no snow. I don't think either of you guys have snow right now.
No, but we were talking about how unusually cold it is, especially for Mike. Last night here, and I'm in Texas, for anybody that doesn't know, Central Texas, and last night here it was in the 30s. Not quite as cold tonight. It's in the 50s, but Mike's in the house instead of his garage tonight.
Yeah, you see, it looks a little different. I'm in my wife's office. I had to set up the folding table. I had to set up the computers all in here. The cheap mic that I have, the old snowball mic,
That's what I'm used to.
That's what yeah, that's funny. This was the first mic that I owned, and then just so I could stay warm because it's 42 degrees here, and the wind chill factor is like 37, so it's pretty cool in that garage right now. But yeah, I mean, no snow, but we'll get frost in the morning for sure. I think we got a question here. Let's see. It says,
yeah, we have a few questions. I think
so. Here's a great question for you guys. So when you go to your local comic shop, what catches your eye in the way of unknown number one of a new series? The cover art or the title of the new series?
Honestly, it's more going on the website. Like I go to League of Comic Geeks, see what everything is coming out, and then I read the log line, and I'm like, okay, and then I kind of see where I want from there.
So what if you overlook something though? Because we tend to overlook stuff from
mostly I would say each other then, because then one of us would probably be like, oh, you should check this out.
Yeah, but to play devil's advocate, if we are in a shop and there is a book that catches my eye that I've not heard of or haven't looked up, which is unusual, like you're saying, Kat, we live comics, so we know pretty much everything that's going on. But it's usually it could be either one. Like a cool title might jump out at me, but more than likely it's going to be the cover art. I think that would catch my attention more than anything else.
I think so too. The cover art, and then there's a lot of times where the store manager comes up to me and he's like, Mike, there's this new number one, because he knows I do worthy ones. So he's like, oh, there's this new number one. You might want to check it out. It's really good. And then sometimes he mentions the distillery books, and I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm staying away from those because
don't
you get a first issue and then you don't see another one for months,
Yeah, we have a couple of comments here. So We Are Venom says League of Comic Geeks has wrong dates sometimes. That's mostly because they probably delayed that book. I usually do this. I'll go through the whole month and look through League of Comic Geeks. And then the week before, like when I'm setting up my pull list, I'll go Midtown Comics and be like, okay, these are the comics that are actually coming out, which most of the time it's, correct. The other question was from JH Hipple. How do you go about finding comic shows, not comic cons? Like, so going to like a show that's more about comics. They're rare, but honestly, because me and Brant in particular, we write comics, so a lot of times we have to like go to shows. It's word of mouth, but like, the shows that you probably see, comic shows, or like Baltimore Comic-Con is probably the only one I can think of that's an actual comic show that you're just going to find comics. And even that has some celebrities.
MegaCon.
Heroes Comic-Con.
Celebrities though too. So when you're thinking
they do, but they have celebrities, but like 95% of the show is comics.
It's just comics.
Yeah, so you can meet your celebrities, you can pay for your celebrities, but it doesn't even come close to the amount of comic vendors that they have there. It's just absolutely insane.
Do you think the exhibitors also are like plush dolls or like things like that, or you also think it's just comics?
No, they do have some other stuff. Like my son bought a katana blade there, and he bought they sell some other things as well, but I mean, there is a lot of comic books at MegaCon, a lot.
Heroes Con in North Carolina. That's a predominantly
that's a bait, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of smaller shows will be more comic focused than like your big name ones, but like really smaller local shows that may be in like a hotel kind of thing. Those usually more focused on comics. There's not a lot of the big ones, though, like Kat said, that are just comics. It's just, they make their money by bringing people in to see the celebrities, so that, and they have the comics too, but they're few and far between.
A good question, because, I wonder what admission price is for a day for like a MegaCon or something like that. Well, Mike, you probably would know more about admission per day, but
varies. Like, you can get early access tickets and it'll save you some money. But it just depends on how big the show is. Some are like
a New York Comic Con is gonna be like
$40, like
$300.
MegaCon is like $50-something, the day of admission or something like that.
Which is actually not horrendous for a show like that.
Right.
Yeah, it could range from as low as like $15 for a really small show to, like Kat said, a couple of $100 for a bigger show. So,
a very good question.
Any other comments that you saw, Kat?
That's all I saw. So, but ask questions along the way, guys, because we only have comics this week. So
yeah, it's one of those weeks. We'll answer more this week.
There's a question here for me, I guess. This says, Mike, will Christmas 365 by Milky Way be on Worthy Ones?
What even is Milky Way? Isn't like the candy?
No idea.
I never even heard of it, so probably not. Probably not. Unless like my shop doesn't get a lot of those like
super indie stuff.
Yeah, super indie stuff. Like they're even cutting back on some of the indies that don't always sell after the issue ones,
right?
Because these books are a lot of money right now. So, and I know there's the Mark Spears Monsters books, like they're $6 a piece. So they don't want to over order it and then not sell it. But now these things are going like crazy. Like you look at these things on eBay, like the first issue is like running like $50, $60, because people are enjoying like the artwork on them. You know what I'm saying? But that's just an example, like, because the publisher is Keen Spot. So it's a very small publisher,
He said this one is Dark Horse. So
really?
They're likely to have it, but I've not heard of it.
Yeah, it may be.
Yeah.
Well, if I keep it in my brain, and I see it there, maybe I'll pick it up and then I'll talk about it. Oh God. We need another Dazzler improv, Mike. I can't do another. I said I was gonna do it and I tried it again and I just couldn't do it, man. It's hard. It's hard to do it. So yeah.
What is an Ultra Mega? We are so good with comics, and I've never heard of Ultra Mega. Have you guys heard of that one?
I think I've heard of it. It might be
familiar.
Yeah. Let me look it up.
It sounds
I'm sorry,
familiar.
guys. I wish we could be more helpful on some of these.
Yeah, it's Image. It's Image. I think I've seen it like in the back of another comic.
I don't think any of us read that one. So
yeah, no. Looks like Volume 1 came out in 2021, so I guess it came back or is coming back. I don't know. James Herron, writer.
Got nothing for you on that one.
Yeah. Hey, I can tell you something today. I watched Transformers 1 today.
Did you?
Yeah, it's on Paramount Plus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the Shia LaBeouf one, or?
No.
No, it's animated.
Oh, the one that with like Chris Hemsworth. I thought you meant like Transformers 1 is in the first Transformers movie. It's like, oh, cool. But you mean the one that came out last year. Was it good?
Right.
Oh, I loved it. It was
that's good.
Fantastic. Absolutely amazing. It's the best modern day Transformers movie I've seen.
Wow.
It's so good because it's a story of the origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron. And how you honestly get to see how Megatron becomes the way he is in his hatred towards Prime and the Primes themselves and what he went through. And oh my gosh, it's insane. You wind up getting to see like Starscream and Shockwave and Soundwave, and you get to see just everything. I mean, it is such a well-told story. It is phenomenal. I really liked it. Like, when you watch this, everything makes sense on why these characters exist the way they do, today. It totally makes sense. And there's a lot of like Easter eggs and stuff like that for certain Autobots that are in there. So yeah, it's super cool.
Why, Tevi asks, why did it bomb in the theaters? I didn't even know about, like, I just heard from, like, I know a lot about movies. That's the reason why I was like, oh yeah, that came out.
Bad in theaters. I heard it did actually pretty well.
I don't know.
I don't know what the budget was, but I'm guessing if it did do bad, and maybe if it didn't, I think it's just advertising. I don't know. I guess you're talking about like compared to like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that did well,
So I think if people did think that they didn't see it, maybe they thought it was a kid's story, because when you first see it, it looks like a kid's cartoon in a way. But it's not. It's very serious. It's very dark at times. It's very sad, and it's a really, really good story. So if someone hasn't given it a chance, then I say go ahead and give it a chance. Like I said, you can watch it on Paramount right now, and it's great, man. It's so good, especially the ending. Holy shit, the ending. It's crazy.
I'll be honest, I didn't know about it until I saw it pop up on Amazon Prime, which they have Paramount stuff on there too. So, but I was like on the fence about watching it, so now I probably will. So,
yeah,
looks like it came out. It actually came out in September of this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so it's pretty recent.
Yeah.
Has anyone seen the 8 minutes of Kraven on YouTube? I'm just gonna go into that movie blind. I'm sure it's gonna. I'm sorry. I'm sure it's gonna be really bad. But
that's going to be a movie that bombs.
I mean, they've been delaying that movie for like 2 years. Like, yeah, I'm gonna go see it when it comes out.
Transformers 1 did 128 million worldwide.
So. That's not bad. It's not bad.
How much was it?
128 million.
How much did it cost?
Let's see, where's the budget?
That's really the determinant. Like if you make 128 million, but it costs like 5 million, then that's great. But if you made 128 million, but it costs 100 million, then that's a bomb.
Right. Trying to find it. You can keep on talking. I'll pop in.
I mean, you got to think that it took. I mean, because Scarlett Johansson was in it too.
Yeah.
So she played Olita 1. Chris Hemsworth's in it. So I mean, there's your huge names.
That's a huge budget. Yeah, that's a huge and also the animation, I'm sure costs a good chunk of money. So that's cool you saw it. I've been trying to catch up with my movies too. I saw Thelma, which is like an action kind of movie about this like old lady whose grandson, she picks up the phone and thinks like her grandson's like being kidnapped, and they find out no, grandma's like AI, and the whole movie's like her trying to get her money back. That was pretty good. I watched that today.
75 million.
Yeah, that's not great.
not great.
Yeah, it cost a lot, and it didn't make as much as maybe it needed to, right? But
right.
like I said, I liked it. Didn't cost me anything.
Literally. Didn't cost you anything.
I enjoyed it. I think it's probably an underrated movie. So I would suggest to go see it. And if it came out during the same time as Wolverine and Deadpool, of course people are going to see Wolverine in Deadpool over Transformers. Animated movie that looked like a kid's movie, but actually it really isn't. So
no, for sure. The other question I saw a little bit before, do you guys read Space Ghost? I don't think any of us read Space Ghost. I know
I do.
People...
I read Space Ghost.
Oh, you do read Space Ghost. Then here we go. Are you guys reading Space Ghost, and how long do you think they'll keep it going? So you you guys never talk about it. That's why I didn't know if you guys read it or not.
No, it's a great.
It's a good series. Yeah,
it's more like a one and done type of storytelling, but it's like. It's because it's like you see Space Ghost fight like the enemy of the month type of situation, but you do have relationship building in there kind of with like Space Ghost and the kids and the monkey in there. And but what's cool is it's not like campy, cheesy, like the Hanna-Barbera cartoon. It's much more serious. It's detailed artwork. It's absolutely beautiful. It's really fun. It's just a fun book to read as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like how is it Matt Cave that's doing Flash Gordon?
Jeremy Adams is doing Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I just meant the company. But it's like that kind of tone. It's more of a serious tone, but like you said, it is kind of a villain of the month, but there's a through line with the character stuff, and there's like consequences for things that happen. Like the boy, he ends up having to hurt a villain, and it stays with him, and it causes like this emotional trauma in him that kind of builds from issue to issue and stuff like that. And there's slowly becoming a little family. So yeah, it's a pretty solid book. It never quite makes my top 5, but it's up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you want to talk about comic books, maybe you should pull. I think I would put that on a pull list for sure.
Yeah, I would too. Yeah. For sure.
David Papose writes that one, so I've been happy to see him doing well on that. The other question here was, do you think Star Wars and Marvel will ever cross over? I'm honestly surprised they haven't. I don't know why they haven't done like a versus anything. There has to be a reason. There has to be like a George Lucas reason for that.
I would love to see, even if it was just like a one shot, and even if it was just like a little bit comical for like a Guardians of the Galaxy Star Wars kind of thing.
Well, that'd be wild.
Yeah.
It'd be very interesting.
No, I agree. All right, well, keep going with the questions, guys, but I think we'll at least move on to some comics now.
Yeah. So let's kick it off. Let's start off with, well, probably the least popular book, I would say, out of these three. And this is going to be the Amazing Spider-Man issue 62. So issue 61, we got introduced to the new story that's going on in here, with Spider-Man getting these Sorcerer Supreme power type of thing, and he's got to stop these what are they, Brant? What are they called again? The creatures or whatever they are.
The kids of Sidorak, or however you pronounce that.
And so basically, though, in this issue, you pretty much get the exact same thing as you did in issue 61. Yeah. There was one thing that happened that progressed, I would want to say, Spider-Man overall, and that's with Norman Osborn's getting rid of the company. So that was the one thing that I got out of this. Otherwise, the fighting was the same.
You get Black Cat in it, but I actually thought
the Black Cat.
Yeah. I didn't like it because she pretty much, first of all, he's dating someone, right? And she's like, "Oh, I'm single now." Hey, you're gonna do nothing with it. Like, what's and he's dating someone. Like, why are you? He's like, "Oh, I'm single." And then I think the comment of that is Dr. Strange saying, "You don't do anything. Like, you don't push yourself. You should have went for it." It's like, but he's with someone else. Like, what are you talking about?
And then his family members are like ragging on him again. So like you got that at the beginning of the last issue. This time you get it at the end of this issue. So there isn't anything really different. So I have a feeling we're going to get this very similar story throughout this, this 8-part story. My only thing though is, since this deals with like so much magic, how could this possibly affect Peter going forward? Like, this is very possible that things can change somehow, some way, when there's magic involved going into the new run of Spider-Man. What do you guys think about that?
I still think it's a filler. I really do think this is just something to get to point A to point B, but I guess you never know. It doesn't feel that way to me, but
yeah, I mean, right now, just because it like you said, this issue feels very much like the last issue. It doesn't feel like there's going to be a whole lot of change going on. Just, his psyche getting messed with a little bit more, which is, a staple of his character. So I don't know. It feels like it's just going to be, okay, you go through these trials and everything, and probably loses Shay in the process. And he's back single again. That would be the only change I could possibly see coming, aside from the Norman stuff, which was interesting, but I don't know exactly where that's headed.
It's too little, though. It wasn't very much, it was like a very quick mention.
Right.
We do have a question, which I thought was very interesting. Do you think it's the golden age of modern comics right now? Seems like there's so many good books, especially from DC and Image, and so much art, so much good art, so much to choose from. Yeah, but I think it's more because there's more options and more creators having control. Like, I think it's great that, Scott Snyder could do his creator-owned stuff, but then also go back to DC and actually have control on the stuff that he's doing. And I think that's the biggest difference. I think the biggest piece of the puzzle is Marvel for me. Like, I want to see more improved Marvel books, and I think we're getting closer. Like, I know we all have different opinions on the X-Men, but when the X-Men's strong, I think Marvel's strong. I think when Spider-Man's strong, Marvel's strong. We're not quite there yet, but yeah, no, I mean, nothing could be perfect, but I think we're definitely there because we have more options. I think Webtoon's a great, thing. Kickstarter. I think the direct market's not dictating comics anymore, and that's why we're in the golden age of comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely true. I mean, it's great to have all these different options and all these writers that are not just tied to Marvel Comics, that they can create their own stories. And
No more
that's why
exclusive
you've
deals.
seen, and that's why you've seen, I think, a more insurgence of independent comic books out there, of great stories, especially within the past couple of years. Like it's just really have taken off, probably one of the, I would say 2023, 2024, especially, there's a lot of great comics.
Yeah. I was doing my top 10 list for my newsletter that's coming out later this week. And I was like, oh man, there's so many great books. And I was even ranking some of the books like that had maybe shown up in my previous one that went higher. Like Superman was a great example. In 2023, it was like number 9 or whatever. And now it's like number 5 for me. And I was like, oh, that's cool to see even books that have been going on for so long getting even better. That doesn't tend to happen. Usually it starts out really strong and gets kind of worse. But yeah, there's a lot of great books out there. And I hope it continues. And I hope everyone gets to tell stories and make money and have a thriving industry.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, couldn't agree more.
All right, so let's move on to Hornsby and Halo. This is issue 1. I know Kat was really super excited about this one. So what did you think, Kat? Did it deliver for you?
I think it was a good start. Like, it did feel like an issue 0 to me. I don't think it really started until the end of the issue where they're having these dreams. You're like, whoa, okay. Are they going to find out they're part of this? I do think that some of the beginnings, it goes on with monologue a little bit too long, but I liked it. This is the type of Ghost Machine story I enjoy. Like, it felt like a very early 2000s YA story and maybe feel like I wanted more good art. I liked it. And, it's funny because I think Tavia was in the comments. He's like, what do you guys think? I love the book. And you probably love the book because it's very similar to Super Sons. It kind of has a similar tone. So, yeah. And it's cool that Peter J. Tomasi is writing this. And then he's writing something else, too, for Ghost Machine. Now I'm slipping to see what he's writing. He's doing a whole nother book. Is it the Rockefellers?
It's the Rockefellers.
It's the Rockefellers, yeah.
Yeah. And that was so different from this. So it's interesting. And, obviously, it's also a brand built by people who worked for DC Comics in, the early 2010s, 2000s. So you're going to get similar story to that. So, yeah, no, I liked it. I thought it was really solid. I won't say it was like, whoa, that's the best issue 1 ever. But, like, I definitely, I want to read more. And I liked it as an issue 1.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. It's like, it didn't blow me away. It wasn't like a Rook for me personally, but I really did enjoy the story and the characters once we got there. Like you said, Kat, there was a lot of exposition at the beginning of it, a lot of history catching you up. That could have very well been just like a little primer to kind of introduce you to it. But once we got into who these characters are and kind of their personalities and where the story was going, I got more and more, invested in it. So going forward, I think it's going to be a book I'm excited about. For this issue, it's like, yeah, it was a pretty good read,
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I thought it was not the strongest Ghost Machine book. It's a much lighter title, I thought the artwork was cute. I liked it. It was colorful. And the one thing that, of course, I wanted was more of the characters, right? So,
yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get that. It will be interesting to see like how they will intertwine with each other. And I know when I read this book, I kind of compared it to Redcoat. I was honestly not on board with Redcoat after the first issue. I was like, okay, I need to read more to figure out if I'm going to continue this book or not. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I liked it. I didn't think it, like Kat said, didn't blow me away. I just need more of it to see if I truly will enjoy it going forward.
Right.
All right.
I have a lot of X-Men discourse in the comments
saying, I saw that.
Yeah, I think they're just pretty much saying like it sucks that it's not a Claremont era. It sucks that the main X-Men title is the weakest. Those are kind of the big notes I'm seeing here.
It's when it comes. Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I was going to say that's if you consider the adjective list book the main title. or if you consider Uncanny the main title.
I mean, I always consider Uncanny the main title because that was Chris Claremont's main title.
Right. Exactly. I mean, listen, you're never going to get a Claremont ever again. There's only one Claremont. Okay. So it's tough when everyone always compares the next X-Men writer to Chris Claremont. You're never going to get a writer that's going to write a title for that length of time ever again. It's just not going to happen. And plus, the other thing is that there's been so much done with these characters. And this is like this, you could say this with any Marvel character. It's like, what do you do? There's nothing that you can do anymore except go insane. Like, for instance, like Venom, right? Eddie Brock is now Carnage. Like, he's been Venom. He's been the King in Black. He's been Anti-Venom. And now he's going to be Carnage. He's been in space. He's a time traveler. Like, what else can you physically do with this guy? He's been a anti-hero. Like, and it's the same with the X-Men. They've been through hell and back when you look at, like, all the stories that Chris Claremont wrote. You know what I'm saying? And I would say the closest thing that somebody did different was Hickman. And not everyone liked that, right? Not everyone liked the Krakoan age. So I do like how the books are different once again, and they're not all connected to Krakoa, but not all the stories are for everybody. And in all reality, all stories shouldn't be for everybody. They want enough books out there for somebody to like something. And I think that's what you get, a much more diverse X-Men line. I don't know if you guys are.
And honestly, I agree. And I actually think the writers have been really solid. I think Gail Simone returning to comics has been a big deal. And I've really enjoyed her Uncanny so far. We have Dave Marquez on art. Obviously, I've been really enjoying the Kitty Pryde stuff. You guys have been enjoying, stuff like X Factor, and I've been enjoying X Factor too. So I think I've been enjoying this stuff. But also, it's like issue 5. Like Chris Claremont had 10 years. If you just said, "Oh, Chris Claremont's run," and he did 5 issues, you'd be like, "Okay, like it was fine." But the things that made him a big writer is all the bigger stuff he was building up to. So I think give it a chance. Here's another comment I saw that I thought was really interesting. Yeah, I think the good writers thing is interesting. Oh, I was gonna say it's like something like Superman, right? Like, I think that's a good example of nothing's really different happening. It's still Superman hanging out with Lois, whatever. But the little pieces that they've been shifting, like Lex Luthor, like getting in his head a little bit more, and Doomsday becoming more of a human element. I think that's the stuff that I've been enjoying about Superman. But none of it's different. It's just you got to find your voice for it. And I don't think you have to make you don't have to make Venom Carnage to make it interesting. You just have to tell a good character story. And I think some titles kind of skip that beat, but I don't think X-Men is skipping that beat. I actually think they've been doing a pretty good job with that personally. And again, that's just, subjective.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, I think like we have too many X-Men solo titles. That's
sure,
my
Mystique, Magic. But you don't. I'm
not
gonna read them.
I was going through. I did my top 10 most anticipated videos for next week. Like I recorded it, and it's being released on Friday. And there was probably at least 8 or 9 X-Men books coming out, like just solo books. I'm just like, my gosh, like that's a lot, just for that line. So I don't know. I just don't think everybody needs their own solo book, in my opinion.
No, I definitely agree. I also saw a couple other questions here. Venom War, is it a waste of time? That is it worth putting on your pull list? I don't read it. I know you guys.
It's done. It's done.
It's done now.
It's finished. Yeah.
The last issue was this week.
If you want to buy a trade for it, go for it. But I don't personally think it was all that.
It was all to set up the new Venom story that's starting this week, right? and that was the whole purpose of it. Yeah.
Correct. I don't think it needed to be like a 40-issue event. It's something that could have been literally a 5-issue Venom War in its own title, and it would have been fine.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on.
Another question we have here. real quick, is if you could only read one comic universe outside Marvel and DC, which one would you pick? Or the Prime Universes: Ultimate Universe, Absolute Universe, Ghost Machine, Spawnverse, Miller World, Energon. That's actually hard for you guys, I think, in particular. For me, I'd probably say Ultimate Universe because I would want my Spider-Man.
That's a hard,
right?
That's
especially for you guys. Question. You have Ghost Machine, Energon, like you guys love those. So
it would have to be Energon for me, just because of Transformers and GI Joe.
Yeah, I mean, I love Ultimate Spider-Man, but I'm a lifelong Transformers GI Joe fan, so I would have to stick with that first.
I'm going with the quality of overall comics, right? So Ultimate Universe, you got Ultimate Spider-Man,
you have the one.
The Ultimates, right? But the Energon universe, you got you've had Cobra Commander, you've had Duke, you've got GI Joe, you got the Transformers, you got Void Rivals. Like there's a lot more there,
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff in Ghost Machine too, but it's a lot newer, and I'm much more invested in the Energon stuff. So,
all right. So
now we can move on.
Now we'll go on to Justice League Unlimited. So I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this one. I liked it. I thought the artwork was really good. I loved kind of like the betrayal at the end. I kind of felt the emotion for who the heck is Airwave anyway. Like I don't even know who that guy is.
I think he's one of the if I'm not mistaken, I think he's one of those lost heroes that got recovered in that whole Stargirl thing. Like there was a bunch of teen characters that were lost in time and everything. I think he was one that came back.
Cool.
That makes sense. I mean, I didn't remember that either.
It was cool because it's like, he gets the invitation to obviously be part of the Justice League Unlimited group. And you see Flash taking him on a tour real quick, and it's a real like in your face type of issue in the beginning. And then they go on this mission. And it was kind of cool to see Carol in the book and try to save a life. And I felt like that was when the book kind of slowed down for a second, and it kind of got the reader into the point of what it's like to be a Justice League member here, and I thought that was kind of cool. And then obviously you get to the end of it and you get to see what happens with Airwave there. And you're kind of like, man, where is this book going to go? So I don't know. I liked it. Again, I still think it's just like anything can happen in this book because there's so many different heroes involved. And that's what I like about it.
I was just reading this comment about too many heroes and not invested in the side stories and all that. For me, this was one of the books that I had to like speed read because I was trying to save it for last.
Yeah.
So I didn't get the full experience of it. But what I did kind of glean from it, and to the point of that comment, is there was a lot going on. There were a lot of side stories, and ultimately they're going to tie in together to one larger story is kind of the vibe I got from it, whatever this Inferno thing is. And I think that's all going to tie into Airwave and all that stuff too. But jumping into it and reading so many little side stories, not realizing maybe that they're connected, that could be a lot. That could be a little overwhelming, I think. And for me, going through it really fast, I felt a little like, wow, it was a lot to take in. But I'm hoping when I sit back and reread it kind of, at a slower pace, that it'll all kind of flow a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a lot. This is one of those books where I took my time in reading. And because like I told you right from the start, it's like, it's all over the place. Like right from the start, like Flash is giving you a tour of the entire watchtower, and then it just goes right into all this action. So it's like, if you read a bunch of books and you kind of go into this one, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this is like freaking overwhelming. I don't know if I like this. So that's why I kind of read this one like, early on,
Right. I think in the long run, they're probably going to like pull that back a little bit and focus on, is Cat freezing up? Is that what's going on? Or is it me?
Yeah, I was freezing up a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to change browsers. Hold on. I was freezing up.
Okay.
I'll be back.
Sure. Okay. So I'm hoping that as it goes on, they'll kind of pull it back and focus like on a specific cast to go out of this mission and, so on and so forth. So we saw that in this issue, like they were pulling different heroes to go on different little side missions, but I think they were just trying to give you the feel for what the book is going to kind of be. But hopefully in the future, we won't have so many different side missions all at once. I think that was where the overall
exactly. It's like, we're going to go, here's this person, this person, this person, they're going to go there. And then you're going to focus on an issue there. And then here's this, and that. And then we're going to focus there. So I think that's what they'll probably do.
Yeah. So hopefully Kat is able to come back.
Would you add this to your pull list?
Yeah, because for one, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer with the creative team. Oh, she's back as soon as I change it. There we go. Yeah. It's a no-brainer for the creative team and everything, and obviously it's going to play into the larger whatever impact it has on the DC universe is going to be felt throughout the entire line. So I think this is a must-have for your pull list for sure.
Okay, cool. I want to go back and say if this was is Hornsby and Halo a must-have for your pull list?
Not yet.
No,
but it has potential.
So.
Yeah.
Well, because also I mean, that has to do with what you personally feel. Like with indie books, nothing I think is a must-have because it's just like literally your personal preference. I think must-haves in some regards are like, oh, does it like continue this bigger story? Like if you're reading Ultimate Spider-Man, that's going to impact a lot of things. But yeah, from personal preference wise, I think try the Ghost Machine because a lot of people are going to be talking about it, right? Like try some title from there. I think is like a must-have. I don't know if that's the one that's a must-have.
I mean, if you like Jeff Johns writing, I think this is a must-have. I mean, there's got to be something there for somebody. Definitely, But so what did you think, Kat? We didn't get your thoughts on the Justice League Unlimited book. She's frozen again.
Yeah.
She's just stuck. Well,
I know.
You're back
I might
now.
have to restart my internet. Yeah, I'm okay now, but if that happens again, I'm gonna restart my internet because I haven't restarted since last week, so that's probably what's going on. But anyways, yeah, no, if you're a Jeff Johns fan, I agree. Just try that. The potential of a must-have because that feels like that's gonna be huge. It's good. Am I freezing already?
Yeah, you stopped again.
You did for a second.
Right, yeah. I'm gonna get off. I'll talk about that after you guys continue another book. I'll be back in like 2-3 minutes.
All right.
Funny.
She's having so many internet issues lately. You used to never have an issue with your internet.
I know, it's crazy.
All right, so let's dive into this. Let's go into number 5. So what was your number 5?
I've been going back and forth since we started the show, but I guess I'm going to go with West Coast Avengers. It was between that and Void Rivals. Honestly, Void Rivals, because Hot Rod's in it. We'll talk about it, I'm sure. But I'll go with West Coast because it's new and I enjoyed the vibe of it. It had just the right amount of like some action and some humor and stuff like that. And
this is my number 5 also.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I like where it's headed. I think this might have been the first book I read this week. So I'm trying to remember exactly everything that happened. But I do remember him kind of having to jumpstart his old suit because he couldn't control any of his other suits. He got the Silver Centurion. Had batteries. Car batteries hooked to him. Yeah, that was hilarious.
And then he drives the scooter over. Like, it's so funny, man.
Yeah, that was some funny stuff. I quite enjoyed that part of it for sure.
And then what about the ending though? So you got this lady that's dying of cancer. She's looking for a miracle, right?
Oh yeah, and she becomes the cult of Ultron or whatever it is, the church.
And so who's the other Ultron robot?
I don't know that it is another one or if it's the same one and he's just kind of duping them. I really wasn't clear on that. I don't think they made that clear. Whether it was the same one or it was a different one.
Yeah, so I was totally lost on that. So I was thinking, going, man, I wonder if like Brant would know or Kat would know like who this other Ultron was. So, but you're kind of just as lost as I am, you know?
Yeah, my impression was that he's playing double life, right? It's the same one, but at the same time we have seen multiple Ultrons in the past,
Yeah,
so it could be a completely different one. I don't know. Either way, we know there's an evil Ultron, and he hasn't turned over a new leaf. He's whatever it is. They're still going to end up fighting Ultron ultimately, which is kind of funny.
right. Yeah, it was great. And then he creates this whole army and then what did you think about the new guy that was in there? What's his name?
Oh, blue, not is it Blue Bolt? Something Bolt, something
Something
Bolt.
blue. I
I
don't
think
know.
or
Yeah.
blue something. I don't. Yeah, he was a former like it was their prisoner work release
Yeah.
program thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of comical too, and I kind of like that.
And And it
Yeah,
goes through this, all too familiar trope of just like obviously you get a team together, they don't get along. There's
right,
things that are rough around the edges. Is it going to work?
sure,
Is it not going to work? And then the best part of the story was actually, I thought, because she's my favorite, is Firestar when
yeah.
Tony
Oh,
reaches
I
out to her
love
to
that. Yes,
join the team,
yeah. Go ahead.
and she's going through the PTSD or depression of the Krakoan age of everything, and
Yeah,
she's sitting there drinking at a bar.
I love that because when we saw all that go down in the X books, it's like she just, of course she was bummed that everybody didn't believe her and she had to like turn on her own to, play this role and everything. But we never saw the repercussions of that in the X books. We never saw what she was dealing with. And the fact that they went there and that she is having a hard time and she's having this, you know, depression and existential crisis and all this stuff going on because of, what she had to do with Orcus and everything. I thought that was brilliant that they touched on that. And
Mhm.
I'm going to be very curious to see how that plays into her being on the team now that it seems like maybe she's become an alcoholic and dealing with Tony Stark, who's
Yeah,
obviously had that. So I love the layers there with,
yeah. That
yeah.
You
that
guys
scene
aren't pausing if that feel now that I think it's working. I think I had to
Okay.
restart the
Cool.
router.
so that
We're
that
just
scene
talking
with,
about,
yeah,
yeah,
West Coast Avengers, who we're talking
that's
about.
both
Oh,
our
okay.
number 5. Yeah.
What's with the vendors? I think it was my number 6. Let me double check. Might be a little lower. Sorry, Lenny. You
Yeah.
cannot make all those noises. Actually, it's number 15. I thought it was a little higher.
Oh, wow.
I think the reason being, if I remember correctly, because I've read so many freaking books,
Yeah.
was because it wasn't the team, it was an Iron Man book. I was just like, oh, like I
Mm.
want to see, I want to see Firestar. I want to go see Spider-Woman. And it was again more of an issue 0 than anything for me personally.
We were just talking about the Firestar issue, about how she was in the bar and she's suffering from PTSD based off of the stuff that happened to her in the X-Men book, because she had to play a double agent in there when she was part of X-Men. And so when Tony asked her to join, she's like, yeah, sure, I'll be there. And you see her drinking at the bar,
Yeah.
And so I want to see her have this redemption being on this team, maybe even dumping that old costume and putting on the old classic costume, remembering like who she was, or who she's
Yeah.
going to be again. So I think definitely with Tony and Spider-Woman and Firestar, I think with those 3 characters, they're the ones that are going to, and James, I think they're the ones that are going to really make this story. I really do. I think it
Yeah.
has good potential here.
The art was good. I genuinely think it just wasn't the best issue 1, but that doesn't mean it's not going to be a good series. It genuinely, I just felt like the team wasn't there yet, and that's fine.
I get where you're coming from too, though. It did have to focus a lot on Tony, and it did play into stuff that had happened previously with Tony, with all the armors and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I totally get that, but I love where it's going. I think, and it seems like it could be a really fun series. So we'll just have to see.
Well, for me, it's going to be on my poll. That's for sure.
Mine too. Yeah.
No, I'm keeping it for issue 2 for sure.
Okay.
So what was your number 5 then, Kat? And then you can go on to Justice League.
Yes, Absolute Wonder Woman issue 2,
Okay.
Which is interesting because the beginning I thought I wasn't gonna really like it, and then once we got to the Steve stuff, I thought that was really interesting how they kind of do a twist of their story, and I liked how no one was like listening to her, and I thought that was interesting. So yeah, I thought that this one surprised me because again, the beginning kind of was a bit shaky, but then it really got into itself.
I like the Steve stuff. I really did like the way they tied him into it and how she was, she was smitten with him in a way. She was considering Izzy a gift, that kind of thing, and the way that they still have a connection even in this twisted, dark world. I like that they played with all that. I'm not sold on like the monster fighting and all this stuff yet. Something about it is just not clicking for me, but I do like that part of it.
Yeah, I mean, same. Like when it came to this book, it was like, all right, you got the monster fighting in the very first few pages, which we've already seen these monsters in the last issue. And then you get the Steve stuff, which is okay. It's probably expected. And then you wind up getting another monster at the end of it. And you're just kind of like, I'm still kind of guessing after issue 2, like, what is the real story here? Right? I don't know. Well, yes, we're getting introduced to the characters in this world, but we don't know the overall story. And that kind of bugs me a little bit. And I just feel like Kelly Thompson does tend to do this at times. Like she tends to have these really decompressed stories, and it takes a while for her to get to where she needs to get to, and I don't know. I'm expecting something more. I mean, when it comes to, if you say, put this on your pull list after 2 issues, I'm going to say yeah, because I've enjoyed the Absolute Universe. But I think just for me personally, I think this is just my weakest one so far.
I have to see what Superman issue 2 does before I say it's the weaker one, because I think they're kind of toe and toe with where that's going. But Absolute Batman's the one where I'm like, no, that's necessary to have on your playlist.
Yeah.
Like this is like crazy great, and it builds upon like the Core Owl shit and Scott Snyder's run as a whole. So yeah, if I have to say, like, if you got to pick out of the 3, Batman all the way. But yeah, I've been liking what's hard about Absolute Wonder Woman is what I think I said earlier too, is the idea that the Wonder Woman series is actually really good right now. So it's like, if I had to pick between Absolute Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman, I'm actually going to pick up the flagship probably. Same thing for Superman. I'm probably going to pick up the flagship. Batman, on the other hand, I really haven't liked in a long time for the flagship. So I'm like, I'm also really enjoying Absolute Batman because it's something I can't get in the Prime universe. Absolute is absolute garbage. I'm surprised by that. I haven't heard a lot of people hate Absolute. I would like to hear your opinion on why.
We got this comment right here. Says, I'm fine with stories that take their time. Think we're so used to miniseries blitzes and constant volume restarts. It depends, though. You know what I'm saying? There's sometimes when it comes to a story, I need that hook to kind of keep me going. Right? Does that make sense? Like sometimes you just have a story and then there's nothing really there at the end where you're just like, well, okay, well, why am I going to keep going? Right? So like at the end of Absolute Wonder Woman, what do you see? Another monster, right? Yeah. And just kind of like, okay, it's just weird that way.
Yeah, I will say I did like the little tease that more heroes will be coming. So maybe that, hints at, the 3 of them tying in together somehow, or maybe we're going to see more, Amazon. I don't know what that meant exactly, but I do like that. So go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to mention this comment. Almost everyone writes for trades now, unfortunately, 6-issue arcs. I think a good comic writer, and Lenny agrees, would say that every issue should be written as an issue. It should be
frozen?
Written for.
Am I frozen?
I think I'm fine on my side, right?
You're fine. Yeah.
I'm guessing it's on. It's just StreamYard today, I guess. No, I think every issue should be a good issue as an individual, but it should have an overarching arc. It should lead somewhere. So yeah, you're writing for trade because hopefully it'd be a good book, but I hope you're also writing for your your monthly audience too. I think that's the trick of comics.
Yeah, true. I mean, true. We were talking about Space Ghost earlier. Again, that's a book that's, take it for what it is, right? A lot of it seems very like one shot, like, you know, even the first couple issues I read Terminator, like even the first issue of Terminator was like a one and done. The second issue is a 2-part story. So there are still books out there that, you know, do write smaller stories, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about.
I'm just asking before you continue on. Did you give your thoughts on Justice League?
Oh, no, I did not.
Because I froze a little bit, so I wasn't sure.
No, I forgot about it. Really quick for Justice League, it just missed my top 5. I thought it was really solid. I think I seeing characters you normally a lot of the TV show in that way. Dan Moore's art is crazy. I thought it was a really solid book, and I hope it reaches my top 5. But yeah, there's a lot of characters, so obviously that's the word too.
Yeah, we'll see for sure. Okay, so let's talk about Brant and I will talk about this Void Rivals issue 14. So what did you think, Brant, of Void Rivals? Did you expect to see another Handroid?
No, I didn't expect to see a drawer full of Handroids. That was different. I don't know why he chose a blue one.
I know.
It was weird.
I agree.
It's like, okay, that's going to stand out like a sore thumb. I like the issue. Obviously, I love this series. I love seeing Hot Rod. I don't know where that's going. I like that we got a little bit more kind of plot progression with the Zerta thing, and kind of leading that way to where we're gonna wake up this being once they unite and all this stuff. And I don't know if it's the Handroids or it's Zerta or what it is that's bringing them together in that dream state or whatever. Yeah, but they're able to communicate, so they're connected. Maybe it was
when they
united. Right, when they've touched ports. Yeah,
right, exactly. They're able to do that now.
Right. So it just keeps building and building. It's a very slow build, but it still keeps me interested because you're sprinkling little tiny bits here and there of, there's like the political stuff going on. Then there's like all the action stuff. Now you're bringing in more Transformers. You got the Pythona and the Royal Guard from Cobra coming in. I mean, you got so many things going on, but it's just like these little teases and it might not like come to fruition for like 2 or 3 more issues down the road. Hot Rod obviously on the cover of next issue, so we're going to see more about that. I just like this issue was kind of one of those issues where it's like, okay, here's all the things that are coming, but we're just going to kind of slow down that main plot a little bit. Yeah.
So this is going back to stories that take their time in telling, but there's elements there where it gets you excited. And it slowly builds and builds and builds into something. And then the payoff is going to be huge. And if you've read Robert Kirkman's stories before, you always get a payoff. It's just how he writes, right? So you got to see it in Invincible. You got to see it in Walking Dead. You've gotten to see it and even in Firepower. Like you've gotten to see it in all those different books. So, this is going to be a lot of fun. I know it is, but this was a good issue too. It's more setup right now. So Okay, so we got that out of the way. So now we'll talk about Uncanny X-Men issue 6. One of the things that I've said, like, how much is Gail Simone going to focus on these New Mutant kids? And you get a lot of this issue where it is focused on these kids, going to school, and them being bullied. And it's a lot of stuff that I feel that Gail Simone has to juggle in this book with all these different characters getting panel time. Now, I'm not saying she's not doing a good job with it. I'm not saying that she's, doesn't have heart in these, in these characters. But again, I just feel like with all these new mutants that are being introduced in the X-Men world, they should have their own title and have the mutants that we like have their own title. That's my personal opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
Go on. Yeah. You go for Brett.
I was going to say, I don't mind them being in the same book. And I think the balance has been decent between the two. And with this whole Greymock and Lane story coming up, I think they play a pivotal role in that. They're getting kidnapped and all this stuff. So I think that's going to tie in heavily to that. Ultimately, I don't think they're all going to stick around. One of them apparently ends all of mutant kind. So, I mean, they're going to, wrap that up some ways, somehow. But I don't know. I think this issue kind of took a little bit of a detour just because it was really heavily focused on them going to school, but it was also a little weird with the Rogue and Wolverine stuff and how it was like.
I was going to ask you that about the PTSD thing.
Right. This whole, like, I want no part of it. You have PTSD and Wolverine Boy, and like, oh, that
was a slower part too. Yeah, that's what was interesting to me was that why I actually like the kids more in this issue because I was like, I'd rather see them than Wolverine and Gambit. And also, I think you kind of need a book like this to introduce these kids because if you it's like everything else Marvel's ever done. Like you have the new champions or whatever. Like who cares if they've never showed up in a bigger book like an Avengers or Uncanny? And it's like the New Mutants, like how they introduced them was through Chris Claremont's run, and you get more issues. So I actually like these new characters, but that's also, I'm not a huge Gambit fan, and I'm not a huge Rogue fan. I like Wolverine. So maybe it's also because like I don't need the page time with them. I'm like, I want to learn more about these new characters. So I like them, and maybe they will spin into a new book like New Mutants did in the past. I mean, that's the whole point. But I've been enjoying them more than the trio, honestly.
That whole PTSD thing was weird to me. It was like,
I don't know. It's like, why now?
Yeah. And just like, why so shocked about it too? Like Wolverine is just like, I have PTSD. It was just weird. It was just weird, the whole scene. So I don't know. It threw me off a little bit, but.
And then you also got the doctor, the evil doctor, trying to capture the kid as well. And it's like, I like the book. I just feel like there's it's almost like Justice League. There's a lot of stuff going on in it. And I'm curious to see how the balance is going to be there. So, and I feel like, okay, here's one other thing too. Like, I don't mind new characters being introduced, but why did we have to get like 3 of them or 4 of them, however many are there? Why can't
I think because that way they interact though. Because when you get one, it's kind of like when that's Superman, the world's finest. You had that one character who wasn't even a new character, but like when they showed up, they have no one to interact with. Like, are these kids going to interact with like Rogue? Probably not. So I think that's why they do it. It's just that way they have friends, honestly. And same thing for like Exceptional X-Men's why they do it.
I don't know. So you got it there, and then you also got it in Exceptional X-Men too. It's just again, I like new characters. I just feel like it's just the writer trying to put their own stamp by introducing their own characters, and then
I can't fault that though. I mean, they definitely want to leave their mark.
They leave their own. They leave their mark. I don't know. I feel like you can't make anybody 100% happy because people want the old people, and people want the new people. People want new characters, but then they're like, oh, the new characters are stupid. And then it's just like, well, how do you find that fine balance?
Right.
So it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
I don't think you do is the problem. I think you should, like, that's the thing, just write what you want. I think that's what I really like about Gail Simone's writing and this run. So you can kind of tell she's just writing what she wants, not in a way where, not a Bendis way, where it's just like, I'm literally just going to write whatever I want and just like, who cares about continuity or like where it goes. But like, I think she's like, hey, like I was out of comics for a while. Let me do this thing. And I can appreciate that. And yeah, you're not going to make everyone happy. Just like Amazing Spider-Man, you're never going to make everyone happy. Ultimate Spider-Man, you're not going to make everyone happy.
Yeah.
I mean, even Absolute, I saw, we were like, oh, that's weird. Not weird, but like, I was surprised that someone said, I hate Absolute. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard that opinion. But even people hate Absolute Batman. And we think that's a great title.
Yeah.
All right. So there's that. Let's talk about our number 4 now. So, Kat, what's with your number 4?
Mine is the Hornsby and Halo. So we already talked about it.
Okay. And what about you, Brent?
Mine was
before
actually,
Brand goes.
yeah.
I think it's wild. I already talked about it with a week that's 20 books. Somehow we already talked about
Right.
it. Anyways, go on, Brand.
No, mine was actually Feral. This issue I really love because this issue more than any other gave me Stray Dogs vibes, because we learned that there is in fact a danger of being in this house with this lady, this cat lady, and it also gave me Walking Dead vibes, like the barn, right?
Yeah.
What was behind that door? I was like, "Don't open the door, Elsie! Don't open the door."
Yeah, and then
I
all
know
the
what's back
zombies
there.
like pour out. Yeah,
Yeah, it just all those vibes, and like how the cats kept chanting, whatever it was, I can't remember what. She'll keep us. The lady will keep us. The lady will feed us. All that kind of stuff. And it's just like they are like brainwashed. Yeah, hypnotized, something, and it just it made this cat lady creepy and evil, and like the whole house is a litter box and all this stuff.
Yeah,
it was just I love
lady,
it.
man. She hoards all the cats, and and she keeps all the sick ones in one place, and then oh my gosh, it's just so wild. And then Elsie is just beside herself. She's like, "There's something wrong with this place," and she goes under the couch and she finds a dead cat, like rotting corpse, and I'm just like, oh man, it's just like, it's just,
and like Lord's psyche is just like broken, right? Like he's all chipper and happy, but at the same time, he's like, she doesn't leave us in the woods all by ourselves with a smile on his face. It's like, oh man,
yeah, no, it was a scary issue. I didn't expect this. Like every single time you think it's gonna be a point A to point B, you're like, oh, actually, a lot happens here. But then also you like see the little things of like what maybe pet owners do. Like the idea there probably is an old grandma who has dead animals because they die, so you keep their ashes.
Yeah,
plenty of people that do that. You know,
out there, like that's a real thing. You know,
right?
Yeah,
I mean,
cool.
Exactly.
Really cool. I mean, but if you pay attention to that artwork, like the of like even the old woman, she's got like scars on her legs and everything else, and oh my god, it's
well, I think the point is that the cat scratch her, right? And like again, every cat owner would know that happens a lot. So I like the little touches of that too. And obviously it's heightened. I mean, like she's crazy, but it's like this like little things that you pick up on as well.
Yeah, just like how dirty the house was and everything. It's just it's crazy. Good stuff. All right. So that was your number 4, Brant. What was yours? Our cat, what was yours?
I already said mine's Hornsby.
Yeah.
And then mine was Justice League Unlimited. So we talked about that book already too. Okay. So let's move on now to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is issue 4. Brant and I read this one. So here we get Donatello. You get the story of him, right? People betting money to fight him, or paying money to those guards to fight him.
Yeah,
he does nothing. He's heartless, right? He's not heartless. He wants to protect the animals that's in there.
Yeah, so he got kidnapped and like drugged at the beginning and kidnapped and put in this zoo where they pay to fight, the animals and stuff, like the mutants and stuff like that. And he's been caged up for weeks or months or whatever it is. He's gotten all frail. His legs are bony. It's just looked weird. He's got a pet rat who he thinks is Splinter reincarnated. He's losing his mind. It was just crazy. It was like, man, they've really broken Donnie down. Poor guy.
It was funny though how the rat is on his shoulder and it's got like a ninja star in him.
Yeah, and Mikey's like, that rat, and they're like, shut up, Mikey, don't tell him. It's like, just let it go. It was funny.
It was
sad, but
and now they're reunited, and now that they're reunited, now I think the real story is going to get going here. So we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about West Coast Avengers. So let's talk about Black Canary, Best of the Best, issue 1.
Book that no one knew came out.
Right.
Yeah, I liked it. I think it has a lot of potential. I enjoyed the conversation between her and her mom. I like the fight, even though I don't know what they're fighting because it almost feels like a boxing match, but there's no gloves. and it doesn't feel like MMA, so I'm not really sure
what
they're doing.
Yeah, it was a little MMA, it was a little boxing, and it was a little wrestling because she came off the top rope with an elbow drop on it. I was like,
whatever it is you want it to be, right?
Yeah, I don't. Exactly. There's definitely not like there's no research behind that. Where it's like if you are a fan of any fighting and even if I'm like I like fighting, but I never like I'm not the super fan. Like you're a super fan of wrestling, Brant. Like I've watched a boxing match, I've watched an MMA match, and I know from the very basics that this is not it. But no, I liked it. I enjoyed it enough for issue 2. If you look over all that, I like seeing Dinah as an individual. But did I love it? No, I don't think I loved it, but I liked it.
I didn't love it, but I did enjoy it. And the only thing I didn't really enjoy was the commentary from the sportscasters just was a little too much. I mean, it was constant and it was repetitive, and it just some of that. Yeah, I could have lived without that a little bit, but the overall story and like her reasoning behind it and all this stuff, I enjoyed that part of it. I enjoyed like Ollie and all the rest of the Justice League like sitting there watching. Like I don't know why she's doing it, but yeah. So it has some potential though, for sure.
So I'm right there with you. Like I enjoyed it. I thought it was interesting. I like the overall story, the fight, why she does it. It'll be interesting to see if she sticks with the deal of taking the fall. But
the ending, I forgot about that. That was a big cliffhanger.
So I would agree. Like the commentary was just much. I read every single part of it, but by the time I got to the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm kind of over it. Like, hopefully, this entire series is not just this fight, because
I think it will be.
That's going to be.
I think it will be too.
Seeing these commentaries talking the entire time.
Man,
really happening.
Get old fast,
Few flashbacks, So
well, hopefully there's twists, because again, you had that cliffhanger. So hopefully, like as it interweaves,
how many issues is it?
I think like 4. It's not. It's not a long series, so easy to invest in. Parker Luck says, I think it's the mirror of the Tyson fight, but the Tyson, like the way this book had to be in development much longer than that.
Yeah, there was way too many blows landed.
Just a coincidence.
That's true.
I think it's just a coincidence in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I think it's just the boxing is popular, so it just so happened to be that the Tyson fight happened, because also that the Tyson fight is such a different commentary too. So I don't think they're related. I think it's just a coincidence.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's talk about number 3. Kat, number 3.
Mine is Feral. We already talked about it.
Okay.
Brant?
Tin Can Society, issue number 3. This is a good book. This is one I sped read, so I probably missed some of the finer details. But this was kind of telling the story of how her and the superhero guy got together, and then we leave on a cliffhanger that kind of leads us. Maybe there's another suspect that we haven't met yet or hasn't come into the picture yet. But it's also kind of telling the story of all 4 individuals and their connection to the guy and to each other, and how the more things change, the more they stay the same. That whole vibe and everything. So not a whole lot of revelation, but just enough to kind of keep you hooked in this one. And the art's just really strong in this book.
The character work, I agree. It's
exactly.
Like shading in that relationship helps for the mystery, and the ending was that he had blood on his hands, so you're like, whoa, did he kill someone? What's going on? I liked it. I think it's a great series.
Cool. All right, and let's see. I lost my train.
You're on number 3 for you.
For me, okay. Mm-hmm. I was like looking at comments and everything. My number 3 is Grommets. So Grommets, penultimate issue here. We wind up seeing Hector, pull out his gun, and man, this shit got dark, boy. And these kids are like running for their lives, trying to escape, and they wind up escaping. They wind up going to the hospital. They talk to the police, and the police don't even believe them, because they think the jocks are the ones that are the ones that are innocent, because they're the high school football heroes and all that other stuff. But at the very end of it, you wind up seeing these 2 best friends. They kind of like make up, and then And you gotta get ready for one of the other kids to move. And so it'll be curious to see like how this final issue takes place here. And so this is just, again, a good, slice of life. You grew up in this time frame, you can relate to it. Overall, it's a excellent story.
Yeah, it's my number 6. I liked it. I think the last issue was a bit stronger because you had that like a lot of more emotional weight, but there's good action in here. I'm interested to see where it ends. Yeah, it's a good book.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. I mean, I agree with you, Kat. I think last issue was a little bit stronger, but yeah, him pulling out that gun and just the way that whole thing went down, and then you have Brian left there as he sees Rick go off with his family, all happy and everything, and he's alone and has to go to his grandpa and remind him that grandma's dead and all that stuff. So it was just, there was that heavy punch that we got left with at the end. Too,
Mm-hmm.
It's a solid read, and I like how it did get a little dark. Like at the end of the day, there is a villain in this book, and that was that kid, and so it just wasn't them just skipping school every day. It was there was a real story there. So very curious to see how it'll finish off. Okay, so let's move forward here. Let's talk about Superman issue 20. So this is the one where I'm trying to remember. Oh, okay. This is the one where they fight Doomsday.
Lois find out a lot about Doomsday too, and like the future of what's going to happen. This is a really good book in my opinion.
Superman is getting like these red levels. Like, where did this whole thing come from?
Well, that's part of the mystery. I think
remember.
I think it's a mystery. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we're supposed to find out like the whole Superwoman stuff too. But I loved how they humanized Doomsday here. Like, I never expected them to do that, but just like they've been doing with Lex Luthor, I think they did a really good job with that here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Lex Luthor stuff earlier in the show, and we saw bits and pieces of that here where he's like rescuing a child and all this stuff, and it just shows, even in those little bitty clips throughout this issue, we see the growth of his character. But the Doomsday stuff where like he's eternal basically, and he keeps evolving to these different forms, and how even in this like what seems like a frail version of him just like grabbed Superman by the throat and was like, you don't
Parasite
want
dies. That was freaking
Parasite.
Crazy. I like the moment between Lois and Superman where they just kind of get to talk. Like, I think this is a really well balanced issue.
It definitely was, and it gave us a lot of information without feeling like info dumps and that kind of thing. So it was a really good issue.
This is a book that you should be reading. Like, this is one that would definitely be on your board for sure. It's just really well done. And Dan Moore did the artwork on this. So
and Justice League.
This looks freaking awesome, dude. Okay, so we do have a little request here. We Are Venom has been asking to talk about Hulk issue 800. Did any of you guys?
I read it.
I did not.
The secondary stories were good enough. Like, it was cool that we got Red Hulk. We got like this like kind of filler She-Hulk story. The Armistice show stuff, cool to see him. But the actual main story I did not like. I really loved this series, and I feel like it just doesn't know where it's going anymore.
So I read this, and I could care less about the backup stories. Like,
really, and you like the main story?
Well, I don't want to pay however much money this book was for. This is the 800th issue, and we get this all the time, and you get like 20 pages of just backup crap. Like, I can read She-Hulk in a She-Hulk book. I don't want to read Amadeus Cho. I could care less, And
we are getting a Red Hulk book.
The Red Hulk, fine. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to the Incredible Hulk story, I thought it was a visual masterpiece. Like, Nick Klein's artwork is really good. It's almost up there with like Immortal Hulk. It's just great to see like the transformations and to see the queen of the monsters or whatever she was, like, transform into the form. We wind up getting to see Charlie, what she is, and it was an interesting read. Was it like the best thing? No, because I don't kind of understand why certain things are happening at this point.
Or where it's going. That's the part I really get frustrated with. But like, I remember in the beginning, we had this like Betty thing where he was being lured somewhere. And now we're kind of going back to the Green Door stuff, but that's already happened to Immortal. And then Charlie's along for the way. And like I said, I think it needs to go back to basics like it was. I think it's gotten too convoluted for me.
Yeah, I think like the whole Betty thing, it happened. Like the Hulk went to the eldest, right? He did give up the soul to free Charlie. Like all that did happen. And so now he winds up breaking free. And now Charlie's still in the book. Hulk is still in the book. So we'll go from there. So it'll be interesting to see. But I don't like how it constantly changes artwork. And I just feel like the story has been going on way too long. This is something that did not need to take as long as it has. So you want to talk about long stories? This is one of them, right? There's no way you could add this to your pull list right now and understand what's going on, right? So if you want to read this version of Hulk, you would have to start it from issue 1.
Yeah, Brant was like, I'm going to read Hulk again. I wouldn't recommend, but.
Right. So as of now, I wouldn't recommend it to your pull list unless it does a completely, new story arc from this point on where you could jump on at this point. Okay. So there's your Hulk talk. So there's that. Where are we at?
I think we're on Hyde Street or Detective.
Let's talk about Detective Comics issue 1091. I like this issue again. I thought it was really good. I like seeing how Bruce did make the decision to take this serum or whatever it was. And he actually talked with Superman to maybe not get his blessings, but to have a voice of reason, which was very interesting. And it made sense to me,
Yeah.
Now I have a feeling that this girl that he got this serum from that he's connected to is the villain here. And she's killing the people to get like these young stem cells or whatever it is that she's using for this. I think that could be her, or it could be too obvious, but that's what I think is going on here.
I mean, that's quite possible. Yeah, go ahead, Kat.
No. My only addition I want to say about the steroids is that it's also a story we haven't really seen from Batman, which I think is cool because it's like, oh, that seems like such an obvious story. I guess you have like Bane stuff and situations with that, but I feel like you haven't gotten it like this. I'm curious to see where the parents are going to tie in again because that first issue was very heavy on the parents, like his parents in the past, and this issue you don't really see that. So I'm curious about that, but yeah, I think Tom Taylor has found his place and what he's good at, and I think the art is great. It's a good solid series.
I like both the conversation with Superman that you mentioned, Mike, and I also like where he was watching or talking about Damian in action and seeing how effortless it was for him and all this stuff, and kind of remembering, and that's kind of one of the things that pushed him over to, hey, I need to do this, to be better, and realizing, as Superman told him, that if you do this, then you're going to affect a lot of other lives. So it's not being selfish. You're actually doing this for a noble reason, that kind of thing. So I thought that was really interesting, but I also love the mystery of whether it's the doctor or not, whoever this is, that's, killing these kids and all this stuff. And it's a detective story in Detective Comics, which is a long time coming,
right?
Yeah. Right. And it's a really good story so far.
It feels like a commentary also of like real life of like older athletes and what do you do when your body kind of it's not there anymore? Like, what do you do about your career? What do you do about this? And you see younger people and they can do it. And I find that interesting too. I like a good commentary.
Yeah. It was interesting too to see like how this stuff affected him like immediately because he had a MCL issue and like he slept for like 11 hours, right? And then what's it called? Damian was just like, you've been asleep for like 11 hours. That's so unlike you,
Yeah.
It was so cool to see. And then he's like, oh, my knee is like fine, it was really cool. And then he's like describing everything. He's like, it's like I feel a little looser. He's like, things don't ache as they much would. So he's kind of, already trying it out based off of that first dose,
Yeah. And I'm thinking, where can I get that now?
Yeah, me too. I'm like, man, I feel those.
Maybe it wouldn't hurt me to pick up a laundry basket. That'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, geez. All right, so let's talk about a big book. Kat wasn't going to pick this up originally, but because there were so many books, but she couldn't hold out. Is this Hyde Street issue 2? Do you regret picking that book up or no?
No and yes, because I think it goes back to, is it a necessary pull list pick, right? Like, it is Twilight Zone. It is. It's exactly like the Twilight Zone. You read it. It's a cool story. I liked it. It was haunting. But every issue is going to be a different person. Like, it is. It's a serialized story. It's not non-serialized. It's very like, okay, here it is. It's more procedural. So I don't know. I'm honestly still on the fence because I think the art is great. The story is good, but where is it going? Maybe the ending with the this bigger guy will learn more. Yeah.
Mr. X-Ray and all that. Yeah.
We might get a little bit more. Look, if there's another 20 book week, I don't know. But if it's like 10 books, yeah, sure, I want to pick it up. I think it's a good series. It's just one of those things where it's like, how many books can you read?
Yeah, you're right. It totally is like Twilight Zone, but I do like that there is that through line, that there is something bigger.
There's going something on else around us.
Twilight Zone has that too, because you always had Sterling who was commentating it all, right?
True. Yeah. So, and I did like, kind of learning a little bit about, his, what is it, Pranky? Is that his name? His past. But not all the secrets. Like they said he keeps it close to his chest, how he actually came to be on Hyde Street and all that stuff. So still some mystery around him, going forward. But yeah, I totally get how this is one of those books. It's like, in a certain week, maybe not. But, right now it's pretty
It's deep. Like Ice Cream Man, right? It's a very similar thing like that, where it's like a great book.
Sure, I think it's more deeper than Ice Cream Man, though. Ice Cream Man is literally a story every time. I think this is something deeper. I think
the characters actually connect.
Yeah, it's all in the same city.
Connect. Yeah, and I think like there's going to be an overall purpose to this whole thing, and I think kind of like the main story, the main character so far is like Mr. X-Ray and Pranky. That's what and obviously the other one was just a one shot, So
that was my favorite one though so far. That was the one I liked the most.
Good, it was good, and I liked just how dark the book was, like, and then the art is so gorgeous, and I just love like this whole cop story. Like, oh man, this is good. This is definitely like, I'm all in. This is on my pull list going forward, no matter what, because it's hard to find sometimes good, consistent horror storytelling. And I think this is going to be that book that's going to offer that.
I hope so. I mean, again, I'm more of a serialized person. That's what gives me hesitancy, like a, Red Mother from back in the day or something like that. That's so much easier for me. Like, or Feral. Talk about Feral.
God.
That's an easier book. So, but yeah, we'll see. I'm not saying no to it by any means. It's definitely, I think it's better than Rockefellers. Like, it's for next, like, I'm obviously getting the Halo books. It's more my flavor, but this is probably the second Ghost Machine book I like the most.
I like this better than
Halo.
Halo, yeah,
which is understandable. It's also like I love horror. I love horror a lot, but I think this is your type of horror. Like, I think you really enjoyed this style of horror. So, yeah, not bad by any means.
All right. So let's see now. We did all three of those books. So now we're diving into the number 2. We got Brant. What's your number 2 this time?
Mine was Superman. So we already talked about it.
What about you, Kat?
It's so interesting because like like Brant's number 3 is my number 2. And so my number 2 is Tin Can Society, which was your number 3.
Yeah.
Like me and Brant had West Coast Avengers at number 5, right?
Right.
So, and then my number 2 was actually Hyde Street.
Nice. So I think we're actually going number 1s after this because we talked.
Yeah, we've already talked about the other 2. Yeah.
Yep. So let's dive into that. So let's go into our number 1. So we'll go mine. My number 1 was what you guys already said, Feral issue 8. So this was my number 1 comic of the week. And Kat, what was yours?
Brant's number 2 is my number 1, which is Superman, which I really liked.
And Brant, what was yours?
Mine was actually Detective Comics, so we already talked about that too.
I really debated about Detective Comics being in my top 5, but I just liked West Coast Avengers. It was like a good Marvel book that I was like, man, finally like a Marvel book that I feel like I can truly get excited about. That's something a little bit different besides X-Men, you know? Like we just have so many of the same book, like of, you know, and it's just like, oh, West Coast Avengers. I'm like, this seems like it could be fun. So that's, you know, and so Detective, it was like, it was in my top 5 last time. And since there were so many books, it was hard to really determine that, you know, top 5 this week.
It really was. I changed mine like 3 or 4 times while we were all, you know, talking about all the books and stuff. So it's like trying to figure it out.
So yeah, so awesome stuff. So so out of these number 1s, once again, Justice League Unlimited, adding it to your pull list.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, me too. Hornsby Halo, adding it to your pull list.
I am.
For now, yeah.
Yeah, same for me. Let's see.
2 books that have new jumping on points that I was on the fence with. Green Arrow. I'm not
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that.
We didn't talk about Green Arrow. Nightwing
on there.
Wasn't enough room. There's so many books that was out.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Green Arrow.
I think I missed Green Arrow. I don't think I read
you completely missed it. I didn't really love it.
I think I missed it.
I think it does remind me of Lemire's run without any of the flair. It's very politically driven, which again, obviously that makes sense for Green Arrow, but I really like the last run a lot more than this so far.
I agree, Kat. Like, I think if you like Josh Williamson's run, you're going to hate this.
Yeah.
I really think this is a much different tone. And it kind of boggles my mind, kind of like how Ollie can go from like one extreme to the other within an issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, even though it's a different writer and it's their take or what they want to do, like, how do you change the character so quickly like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
and
know
there was nothing,
nothing
that hooked me. It's just the tone, honestly. It's the first one's family and all really in the DC universe. This is more, again, going back into the political aspect of Green Arrow. It's a much darker palette.
He's kind of an asshole.
He's really a loner, literally a loner in this book too. He like puts on the TV dinner type situation. It's very different.
Yeah,
he's trying to solve like a serial killer situation going on. He wears a different outfit. He's sporting the real curly mustache situation going on in this one. I mean, it's just something that you may not like if you really enjoyed the last run or the way Green Arrow has been written, you know, in the past so many years. You're going to be like, wow, this is a lot different, man.
Yeah.
So,
it's just weird because we got that little preview of what was coming, and I really enjoyed that because I remember saying like it reminded me of the TV show Arrow. So it's kind of surprising to me because I really did like the last run, that it went completely different.
You might like it though because it does have an Arrow vibe. I will say that.
I'm going to give it another try. My biggest problem with it is it was a quick read. There wasn't a lot of like storytelling in it. Like, look at it, Kat. You're going to see there's not dialogue in there.
No, it's very quick. I was trying to see what the cliffhanger was. I don't even remember what the cliffhanger was. As someone with a political detective person, I really don't remember. So, another book that came out was Nightwing, and that's another one. Well, Green Arrow, I really don't know if I'll get the next issue, especially if it's this big. That I'm genuinely not sure.
I like this issue of Nightwing better than the last issue.
So Nightwing is a little bit, I still don't love this book. It does still feel very 90s Nightwing, but the difference between Green Arrow and Nightwing is that there's some sort of hook. They're still like, okay, he's talking to his sister. He's talking to Oracle. where I still didn't love this issue. I still do like Tom Taylor's run a little bit more, but there's something there. Like there's some good character work. Green Arrow, I can't find anything I liked. There's nothing out there that's like, I need to get the next issue because at least this is happening. Nightwing, at least there's a little bit more.
I forgot how this one ended. This was one of the first ones I read too.
Which one, Nightwing or Green Arrow?
Yeah,
Nightwing. He finds out one of the Teddies, that gang. He finds out he's like a 14-year-old.
Oh, they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're kids.
And he's like, he's going to take them down now. He got really upset about that.
And it's like it's like a carnival. Like
no, I totally now I remember. Yeah.
So we'll see. That one. Go on, sorry.
No, I was going to say that he was on TV and they were like trying to make him look like the good guy, and then they're like, "But he stole our lab animal and we want it back," and this and that.
Yeah.
And then they wind up getting the police to become like the police force of Bloodhaven. They have jetpacks and all that kind of shit. Right. And then kids wind up getting caught up in the crossfire and they wind up getting killed. So
right. And it seems like Nightwing was in on the frame job on all the gangs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did like this issue better than the last one.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So I'm on that one. Green Arrow, I'm really on the fence about. I might give it another issue and see. So I don't know. We'll see when it comes to that one. I might drop it. So
I think I might drop it, especially if it's a week like this. It's so easy to drop. But again, if it's 10 books, maybe I'll pick it up. The other book we did not talk about was Silent Night. I didn't think this was as strong as the first one. Obviously, it was in 5, so that was a little disappointing.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but I was a little disappointed because it wasn't nearly as
strong.
Right. And when you come out of that one, that that really surprised me, and reading this one was just like, okay, it's fine, and hopefully it gets better, but it just wasn't. It didn't give me that same this.
So really I think that's the problem, because you're got surprised by the first one. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe
and
so.
You're like, oh wow, this is really good. And then you're kind of expecting the same thing. So you have this high expectation
for it. Yeah.
And the story still could be kind of good, kind of fun, right? But it doesn't live up to that. You remember that very first issue of the original story, and you're like, man, that was really good. And it's just not going to ever, I don't think it will ever live up to that original one. I thought it was okay. I thought the villain was kind of interesting. It was fine for what it is. It's a quick little month series, and then it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you going to continue it, Kat?
I'll definitely pick up. Yeah, I'll pick up more. The art's good.
Yeah.
I was interested enough. So more Zatanna. I'm cool with that. Nothing bad, nothing great. So I'll keep it there.
All right. So that's on your pull list. $100,000 later. There you go.
Seriously, it was such a. I'm really curious to see if next month is going to be the same, because this was.
Well, there's going to be probably at least 1 week. All right. Yeah. I mean,
I know.
Depends. We'll see.
I have to look at. Let me look at my list. I'm gonna pull it up now.
This week is not.
I know
bad.
Like tomorrow's normal. Yeah, tomorrow's normal. It's nothing like. I think it's like for me probably. I don't know, like 12 books or something. Let me see.
Most of my indie books, I didn't get them because there was a
Dynamite
issue. Yeah, so I didn't get them. So I had to read these books all digitally. So I still have to get those books, and I'll probably wind up getting them tomorrow. But it's like only 6 or 7 books, something like that, when it comes to those indie books.
I'm looking at the list now, and I would say most week I'm getting like 15 books or 16, which is a lot for me. So it seems like they've not giving us 20 again, but there's a lot of books. It's just, there's no small week for me at all. I think literally even tomorrow I'm getting 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 books tomorrow. So there's just a lot of books.
Yeah, I would take 14 books easily, especially after this batch.
That means you're probably getting like 25. Yeah.
No, there's no way there's 25 on that list. I think like when I looked at it last, I think it was like 15, right?
Okay, that's not bad.
And that's not including books that I still have to pick up from last week. because of the
because
delay.
of the whole diamond situation, which didn't happen at my store.
Right. You're lucky. So, but at least I read all those books. So at least that's done. All right. So Brant, to close out the show, we're going to pass it to you now and talk about the most anticipated for tomorrow or for later today.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about the Absolute Universe in the show, and all three of our number 3 is Absolute Superman number 2. So we're all kind of curious about what that book's going to be going forward, and I think this issue will kind of spell that out for us.
I want to see Lois, man.
No, honestly, Echo. Me too, Lois.
Right? Like, I want to see like the other characters. Like, I want to see Lois. I want to see Jimmy. I want to see like all these other people that are in this universe if they introduce them in this universe.
Right. It'd be interesting to see if Jimmy's like a famed like war journalist or something like that.
Yeah, I could believe that. Definitely.
Yeah, that would be cool. So I'll go to my number 2 just because I was trying to pick a different book than you all, and All New Venom. I'm just curious about it. I'm not really like looking forward to it, but I'm curious about who this new Venom is.
You're anticipating.
I can tell you who it is already because I read the last issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it Luke Cage? That's what people are saying. So
no, it's not Luke Cage.
I don't know who it is. It's probably because it's yellow and black, the colors of the costume. Yeah.
It makes sense if you read the Venom run. Okay.
I only read bits and pieces of it. So.
And if you read the Venom War stuff,
it
makes sense why he's gold. And
I get that.
Okay. And so that makes sense there. And his gold is like, it protects him. It's kind of weird.
So, it's the anti-carnage thing from Venom War, the gold thing, right?
Yeah, you read that story? Did you read the story?
I read Venom War, and that was in the last issue of Venom War. Was the Carnage spelled backwards? The anti-carnage thing, So
anyway. I'm checking it out. I'm reading it.
I'll check it out. I mean, it's Al Ewing, so that's like hit and miss for me. So
I am hopeful that Al Ewing will take all the complicated nonsense that he put into the last run and kind of just simplify it. Like don't mind Venom being different things or trying new things with the symbiote, but just make it less convoluted. Like all the time travel stuff, all the different versions of Eddie Brock in the future. It's just way too much, It's like he almost tried to duplicate Immortal Hulk. And it just, for me at least, it just didn't work. Like, let's not overcomplicate it. Let's not try to like make yourself so brilliant and be like, oh, look at all these different versions of Eddie Brock in the future that's coming to destroy the world. It's just like, come on, man. It's freaking Venom, dude. That's all it is,
Yeah.
So hopefully he just makes it a little bit more simpler for people to understand. Because honestly, if you were to jump on Venom, same thing at any point, you would have no idea what's going on.
Oh yeah, no, I know. I agree. So fingers crossed. So we'll go to your number 2, Kat, which was the one I was gonna pick, which is Batgirl. I really enjoyed the first issue, so hopefully
I wasn't here for this actually from when we talked about it, but I really liked it. Cassandra and her relationship with her mom was super interesting. Felt different to me. The art was good, so I want to see where it goes.
Yeah. Are you picking this up, Mike, or you skipping?
Yeah, I think I decided to give it another try just to see if I will like it. For me, I was like, I don't know what everyone's so hyped about. Like to me, it was very simplistic. Maybe others are just really excited to have the character back in her own series once again.
I think it's that, honestly. I think it's because she has not been a POV character in like 20 years. So I think it's more of like, it is the same, but it's also like been so long since we've had this version of the character and this version of Batgirl. Also, I think it's very introspective. I think it's a really interesting relationship between her and her mom. That's the thing, at least that gravitated me. And also the art is really decent. Like that's
I thought that the character work, I thought like, it makes sense with her mom, but I thought it was just like very repetitive of what she was saying to her mom in the issue. And it was just, I don't know, it was just okay for me. So I'll be curious to see like what the more in-depth story is going to be about, right?
Yeah.
Instead of them also just fighting some like undead people or whatever the heck that they were in that issue, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And like like Mike and I talked about, if there are people like you and ICAT that read Batgirls, you know, it kind of stems off, you know, that interaction where she, you know, had with her mom in that book too. So,
yeah.
All right. So my number 1 and Mike's number 2 are the Ultimates number 7. After that last issue, I cannot wait for this one. I can't wait.
I dropped this book, so you guys have to continue to tell me. I know.
Did you read last issue?
No, that was where I dropped it. I know you guys.
That was the best issue of the whole series. I mean, it's so good.
It built up into the point where you finally had the team, and then you wind up getting that version of Bruce Banner, Hulk, come into play, and he has the power of Iron Fist, and he just annihilates everybody. It's just insane. And Doom is like racing against time to try to find them, to bring them back before everyone gets killed. There is a death. Oh my God. It was wild. It was absolutely wild.
Yeah. It's so intense. So I can't wait to see how that plays out. So, all right. So we'll jump to your number 1 then, Kat, because this is a book that I don't read. I don't remember if you read it or not, Mike. But
no, Mike doesn't read it either. No one reads it. Just
well, no, I think I did put it on my pull list.
Did you?
To see again, like where we're leaving off with this whole thing. Because I read it in the past, right? I did read it. I couldn't even begin to tell you what happened in it.
It's been tell you.
so long. So yeah. But I'm going to give it a try for sure. And just I want to see if it's a good jumping on point for people too.
I have a feeling it's not going to be. I like that book. Like, that's the thing. Like, I want to say, add this to your pull list, but there's so much in it. But Mike, you have to let me know if it's a jumping on point for you. But I love this book. This is one of my favorite comics of all time. It's just to give you guys what Snot Girls is about. It's about this girl who's an influencer who her big secret is
her big secret is
I did. What's her big secret? Her big secret is that she has allergies, that she's like, oh my God, I have snot. It's so bad. But really her big secret is that most likely she was involved in a murder, but because it's from her point of view and she's on these allergy pills, we don't actually know if she killed someone. And she's with this girl who's horrible. She's a horrible human being. She's the devil incarnate. She's got some mystery behind her, and she's literally in a romantic relationship with her. And she most likely killed this person. And it's all like the idea of not really knowing what's going on because she's a very unreliable narrator. So I love this book. I love the mystery. I think it's such an interesting commentary. The relationships are kooky. Really recommend this book. But I hope to everybody it's a jumping on point. Also, the book hasn't come out in 4 years, so I'm also curious to see if people are gonna buy it. Like, I don't know. I'm curious, man. I hope it's here to stay, and I hope they at least end the story if they're not coming back. Just give us an ending and a resolution.
Watch it be something completely different, like what it was. Like, it doesn't even touch on that story. Hopefully, they do catch you up on it, and it get you caught up of basically what you just explained in a nutshell, so people can get it, because there's got to be a way.
It's not too hard to explain either, so it really only could probably be 2 pages if they needed it.
So
it was
A+ Comics. That is quite the
visual.
The comic right there.
Wow. Okay.
That book's not about that. So
no. So moving on. Nightclub 2 issue number 4 was your number 1, Mike. Obviously looking forward to that as well. Last 2 issues really heavy stuff. So
very heavy when it came to the other kids and just what's going to happen now going forward, because we only got the female vampire. What's her name? Amy?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't remember.
I don't know. She's the only survivor left of the 3 in the book. So It just took that complete turn. What's going to happen with her? What's going to happen to the other two? What's going to happen to the bad vampire kids? Like, dude, it's so unpredictable right now. I don't even know. And I thought I had this book all figured out.
Yeah,
and there's all these twists and turns.
No, they totally threw us for a loop. Yeah, it's a very surprising book. It just goes to show, even if you become a vampire, you and you're a superhero, you're not safe. So you can die just like that. Doesn't matter.
That's true.
All right, and that's it. That's all our most anticipated. I would say, for the Ultimate Universe, after what happened last issue, the Ultimates is a pull list must to see what's going forward. But that's my opinion. Yeah.
I would say all day of the week, Ultimates is adding to the pull list. I would say
Stock Girl, guys, get it.
I mean, it's necessary for all new Venom. And Nightclub, I would say, you go out there and find that first trade, so you truly get an appreciation for the story, and then read the current run. But I don't think it's a must. You don't have to read the first trade. It gives you a good jumping on point in this volume, but you would have a better appreciation for the story. But I think it's a must to add to your pull list for this.
And we all have Absolute Superman, so that means something. I think all the Absolute titles, in my opinion, is something you really should at least try out. I think it's doing something really different for comics. Doing something different for those characters. So go check all those out.
Gotcha. A+ Comics says Nightclub, the $1.99 issue. Well, that was the
original one, yeah.
Right. And that was published. Remember, that was published through Image at the time, and now this is Dark Horse. So there's no way that they were going to allow a $1.99 issue in Dark Horse.
And also, it's like issue 10 at this point. If you look through all the volumes, it's a little harder to get like that many readers. So you're getting more your core readers. You're going to lose a lot of money if it's $1.99. The reason you started at $1.99 is because you want to get newer people to try it out.
Right. It's like an introductory offer,
Yeah.
It's like what Image used to do. Maybe they still do it, but with their first trades, they would always make it $10, and they'd be like, "Here's that way it's easier for people to check it out." I don't know if they still do that, but they used to.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
All right, and then that's it. So we're all done, guys. So we talked about a lot of comics today. We answered a lot of questions. We appreciate you guys for being here tonight, and hopefully all three of us will be on here next week. As we get closer to the holiday, though, that's going to be the sketchy thing, So we'll discuss that as a group of, probably missing Christmas and,
Well, Christmas Eve is a Tuesday, so we'll probably definitely miss that.
Yeah, and New Year's Eve is a Tuesday, so we'll probably not be on here either.
Yeah, we probably won't be here. And you guys probably wouldn't want to be here either. So,
so for the next 2 weeks, you have a chance of getting us, and then we'll have 2 weeks off. So
yeah, exactly. So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't had a chance yet, make sure you subscribe to all our channels. Comic Uno, Only Good Comics, my channel, Comic Book Corner 2.0. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up on your way out, guys. It takes just a second. And if you don't want to miss a show, make sure you hit the notification bell as well. So, as always, guys, have a happy new comic book day, and we will see you all next week. Good night, everybody.